All right, let me start out by saying that, I'm really, really proud that not only Eric Berry is fully healthy after a battle with Hodgkin's lymphoma, but he's back to playing football again. That's awesome, awesome stuff. You know, really, really awesome. It's crazy to think how basically unimportant the safety position was back in the 70s. They were filled with washed up corners or guys who weren't fast enough to play safety. Now these guys get drafted in the first round. It's like a specialty position now. It's crazy, crazy stuff. Barry was a first round pick. You got Earl Thomas. A lot of guys. So what do I look for in a safety? There's instincts, range, and tackling. Instincts, anticipating a run or pass, knowing where the ball is at all times, and beating the opponent to the spot. Range, sinking into deep halves coverage or single high, adjusting the vertical receivers, closing in quick, taking the proper angles, reading the quarterback's eyes, and tracking down running backs out of the backfield. Tackling, securing tackles in the open field, filling the alley and run support, and laying the lumber to intimidate receivers going over the middle. Earl Thomas tops my safeties list because he's equally great at stopping the run and being in coverage. He's fiery, smart, athletic, physical, and extremely confident out there on the field. At 5'10", 208, Thomas is, well, he's the smallest member of the Legion of Boom. That doesn't mean he can't lay the boom. He launches himself like a missile at ball carriers. I love watching him hit. His closing speed and range going sideline to sideline is by far the best in the league. Seriously, watch him close in on a back in the flat. It seems like he's there before the ball is. He's simply the best in space and rarely out of position. In coverage, he's athletic enough to run with any receiver in the game. I've got Eric Weddle at number 2, the best coverage safety in the league, in my opinion. He can match up in man and survey the field survey the middle of the field in zone. He's got great instincts, great speed, great size. He's not as athletic as many of the other safeties I'm going to have in the top 10, but his intelligence and instincts are what separates him. Didn't allow a touchdown all season long. Weddle is, pretty good in run defense too. He can play in the box, take on blockers, sift through traffic, find the ball carrier. He always takes the proper angle. Very, very instinctive, big hitter. In the final year of his contract with San Diego, he's going to be a hot commodity come next offseason. And speaking of contracts, Devin McCourty got himself a nice one with New England during this past offseason. 5 years, $47.5 million. He was set to join Chip Kelly in Philadelphia for more money, but Bill Belichick convinced him to come back at the last second. His range and instincts as a center fielder is among the best in the game. The move from cornerback to safety was the best thing that could have happened to him because it's where he can use his athleticism, top-end speed, and instincts. And he's rarely targeted, just 22 times last season. He can completely shut down the middle of the field. Many may not think of McCourty being a great run defender because he is a former cornerback, but he has some really, really good range due to his speed and does a great job of taking away the outside runs. Eric Berry, talked about him to open the show, checks in at number 4. He'd be number 2 if he was fully healthy, but I think it might take him a little bit of time to climb back into that top tier. Maybe by mid-season, we'll see the Berry of old. He and Thomas, were taken in the same draft. Berry went 5th. Thomas went 9 spots later at 14. Like I said before, when he is healthy, though, he's among the best. He's an athletic specimen. He has great closing speed, always in position when in coverage. In the open field, he gets from back pedal to sprint in a flash. As a run defender, he plays with good form and technique, and he's basically at his best playing the edge. The underrated Reshad Jones is number 5. He's not as recognizable as a name as some of the others I'm going to have in my top 10, but when I turn on the tape, I see a stud. He also notches every category of the stat columns. Despite missing the first 4 games due to PED use, still put up 80 tackles, 3 interceptions, a forced fumble, and a sack, so a whole smorgasbord there. At 6'1", 210, Jones is a guy that likes to play in the box and lay the lumber. He can make tackles in space, pursuit, and in traffic. In coverage, Jones sees a lot of action against opposing tight ends. He did give up 3 touchdowns a year ago, but overall, I think he's a very, very solid cover man. Number 6 is Jairus Byrd. Hasn't gotten a chance to live up to his 6-year, $56 million deal. He signed with the Saints last offseason, injured his meniscus 4 games into the year. New Orleans let a lot of guys go their separate ways to clear up cap space and get him a year ago, so we'll see how he bounces back. But injuries were also a problem in 2013, played just 11 games that season too. Spends a lot of time in single high looks as a center fielder, although he's not overly fast or physical. Great range, instincts, breaks on underneath patterns really, really well. Excluding last season, he's had less than 3 interceptions just once. Not a thumper in run defense, but a willing and able tackler. Harrison Smith is number 7. Great size. He's 6'2", 214, and at 26, there's still room for improvement. Great physical in the box kind of safety, but can drop back in coverage as well. Against the run, might be the best in the business from the safety spot. Comes off blocks, lays the wood in the open field. In coverage, he's rangy, athletic. Had 5 interceptions a year ago. Kam Chancellor is number 8. Earl Thomas's Legion of Boom running mate down there in Seattle. And if you want to see how athletic he is, go watch that Carolina playoff game and watch him leap over the line of scrimmage on a field goal. Not once, but twice. It's pretty insane considering he's 6'3", 232. His trademark, laying the big hits. He is in the Legion of Boom. So not only is he physical in the box, he can also make plays off the edge. Now, I know I said Smith might be the best in the business to stop the run at the safety spot, but Chancellor's right there too. I mean, obviously. In coverage, you better watch out if you go over the middle. Again, he's Legion of Boom. He lays the boom. Also has the athleticism to play tight ends up the seam. Glover Quin checks in at number 9. It was his second season in Detroit after playing his first 4 years in Houston. But it was his first season under Terrell Austin, and Quin was outstanding in Austin's defensive scheme. 73 tackles, 7 interceptions. Great numbers there. Played with great range, instincts as that single high center fielding safety, but can also step in and play man. Obviously, with 7 interceptions, you can guess that Quin has some good hands. Solid in the running game. Probably at his best in the open field. TJ Ward rounds out my top 10, but he's not in the top 10 because of last season. Because last season was very, very, very disappointing in Denver. At his best, playing the run, being that physical in the box kind of safety, basically like an extra linebacker out there. But he struggled big time in pass coverage a year ago. If you based his ranking off last season, he might not even crack my top 50, but was excellent his first 4 years in Cleveland. I think he deserves that top 10 billing. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for all that. Tashaun Gipson is 11th, Donte Whitner 12th, Tyrann Mathieu 13th, Antoine Bethea 14th, Morgan Burnett 15th, Malcolm Jenkins 16th, George Iloka 17th, Corey Graham 18th, Robert Blanton 19th, and Louis Delmas rounds out my top 20. Whitner is the name everybody recognized in Cleveland, but I love Gipson. He suffered a season-ending knee injury in Week 12, but still finished second in the NFL, 6 interceptions. Speaking of Whitner, Antoine Bethea has done an outstanding job replacing him in San Francisco. His very tight coverage. Had a career high 4 interceptions last year. Graham is an interesting name. Probably the best quarterback Buffalo had last year, but he wasn't going to start, so they took his talents to safety. I think that's a great move. Bill's other safety is Aaron Williams, so he'll teach him, how to convert, because Williams was a safety as well back in the day. Smith gets all the pub in Minnesota, but I like Blanton a lot. His man coverage ability is very, very impressive. Some other underrated guys I like. I love Will Hill in Baltimore. He's at number 22. Also high on TJ McDonald at 27. At 38, Charles Woodson was probably the best player on Oakland's defense outside of Khalil Mack last year. I have him ranked at 29. Raphael Bush is the third wheel in New Orleans, but he could probably start for a lot of teams. I have him at 39. Bradley McDougald might be the most underrated safety in the game, I think. The only reason why he's not higher because I want to see more of him. I have him at 47. So there you go. Those are my safety rankings. Battling a little bit of a cold today. Just really came on suddenly this morning. Really struggling with it. But that's it for this one. What's your top 10? What's your top 5? Let me know in the comment section below. Debate me if you got any gripes. Let me know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter @TheBitterBirds. I'm out of here. Later.